Hey everyone, welcome back to another edition of Sales Uncharted. Now, to all my listeners, they know me that this is going to be another quirky show. I typically bring people that bring something very interesting to the world of B2B selling. And I have always promised my listeners, I'm not going to bring people that teach you technique. I'm not going to bring you a sales VP who's going to tell you how to do ride-alongs and how to, squeeze the juice out of salespeople every quarter. I always want to bring people that will talk more to behavior and attitude rather than to technique. Today, I've got a very special guest. So, Amarpreet Kalkat is the founder of Humantic AI. I am a user of the product, so I can tell you I'm very excited to have him on board. I'm not going to give any secrets, so I really would love for him to take an opportunity to kind of introduce himself, the work he does, and what pain, Amar, do you solve for my listeners? B2B sellers, remember that, sir, right? Welcome,
Right.
Amar.
Absolutely, Deepak. A pleasure to be here. Pleasure, getting this chance to speak to you. I'm looking forward to hearing your take as much as I'm looking forward to sharing mine. So thank you for having me.
No, my pleasure. So, Amar, back to the same question again. What problem do you solve for my buyers on the call right now? My sellers on the call right now. And maybe there's a
Right.
problem you solve for buyers, but I'm sure you'll tell me about that anyway. But what a seller listening in right now, what problem are you solving for him, sir?
I mean, actually, if you solve it for one, you solve it for the other if you do it well enough. But I'll let me answer that, Deepak, by sharing a bit of story. I think you'll probably appreciate that. So, see, I am a builder turned seller. That's how I see myself. Right. My first love is still building in many ways. I started building AI a long time ago, around 12 years ago, and this is my second startup, second SaaS, second AI startup. And for my first startup, my investors will keep saying, Amarpreet, if you could sell as well as you can build, it'll be another another thing altogether. And I had this very stereotypical impression of the salesperson, right? The used car salesperson. I said, I don't want to be that
Yeah.
guy, right? If
Yeah.
this is gonna change my DNA, I'm not that guy. Like I take my principles and all fairly seriously. So, but at some point, I said, you know what? Can I not do this? Can I not do this in a way that actually aligns with my values and my principles? So in many ways, Humantic AI, right, is a manifestation of that desire, that goal. What does a really good, a really, trustworthy, a really professional salesperson look like? What do they bring to the table? What should they bring to the table? We've tried to uh, essentially give it shape in the form of Humantic AI.
Right. So let me dig into that a bit with you, Amar, because I always like to meet a founder who admits very quickly that selling was not exactly their first love, and I respect that. Right. And I work with a lot of founders, and Amar, I've found that founders tend to go to demo very quick. Founders tend to be so proud of the product that they sometimes lead with the product. And sellers,
Right.
and you're right. I mean, I'm still waiting for that Indian parent that the child is born and everyone looks into the cradle and says, ha ha ha, ha, he'll be a salesperson. No, everyone says lawyer, legal, everyone says
Yeah.
chartered accountant. Some say, tycoon. There's another word that my grandfather used, which made me smile. The guy can only say gold, silver, and tycoon. Those are the three words he knew in English. So I'm waiting for that day when someone says that, the sellers, because there's this stigma, and you're right about that stigma. But Amar, let's kind of twist this. If I were to ask you very simple terms, what exactly is Humantic? How do sellers use it in the day-to-day work? And what do you think is the best use case that you've seen of it so that my guys can actually now know that, okay, wait, there's something very interesting that Amar brings to the table. Let's go and have a look. How would you explain that for me?
See, I like to say that Humantic AI is a way for sellers to walk in as an expert that the buyers can trust. That's how I see Humantic AI. We are a tool, right? We are a mechanism for sellers to walk in as an trustworthy expert. What does that mean? Where does that thought come from? So I'll share that, and we often uh, talk about that as our perspective on the market. I see what I see, especially Deepak, with AI, right? AI in sales, AI in revenue. A lot of the 80-90% of the conversations very quickly jump to seller productivity, right? So, AI is going to make our sellers productive, save them a lot of time, allow them to do this, we'll automate that, right? A lot of conversation just goes there. But the fundamental challenge today, and let me ask you this. I think this will be interesting. Selling is hard today, right? Selling, I mean, you've been selling for a long time. And would you agree if I said selling is the hardest right now that than it's ever been? Would you agree, or has it been harder in the past? What do you think?
Amar, I'm going to answer it as follows. I work
Yeah,
with a lot of customers. This is what they tell me.
yeah,
Selling has become slightly easier, Deepak. And I'm like, okay, I'm very curious to hear why. And then they
right.
talk about AI and automation and the speed with which they're able to get their emails out, the speed with which they're getting their messaging out, and so on. And my
Right.
response to them is, that's brilliant. Now show me the impact on your funnel. And then you look at the
Exactly.
funnel and then you sit there wondering, scratch on your head,
Yes.
what is this?
Why?
But so my,
Why?
my
Why
point
do?
is,
Yeah.
the jump from A to Z is exactly my issue. Most salespersons, if you think like a novice and you look at what AI and automation can do for you, you got to
Right.
understand, and this is where the fun with this entire thing is, right? And I really like the question that you asked, Amar, because I'm actually hesitant to say that, but I will be very clear and I'll give you my answer to you. I
Yeah.
would say that sales has always been difficult. What
It's
is
always been
going
difficult.
wrong right now for me is that the guys are
Yeah.
looking at this low hanging fruit, getting hyper excited. And what they're
Right.
forgetting is that you're going to earn your chops, you're going to earn your money in the room without AI when the judgment moment arrives. And
Yes.
that judgment moment for me is the read of the person in the room, the read of the
Right.
person before you get into the room. And I think that's why I was very intrigued and wanted to bring you on board to have this conversation, because I think you are solving a very intriguing aspect of this dilemma, right? Everyone focuses on the behavior and attitude and technique of the seller. We spend
Yeah.
billions of dollars on training them up, right? And then they go and
Right.
use AI and automation to go and do what I call superfluous investigation or discovery. The guy
Exactly.
posted about, and this is a true story, Amar, since you asked.
Yeah.
A customer of mine posted about a event that he went to, which was a cancer charity, right?
Right.
Perfect, great. I had an automation that actually said to me, outreach, this was the message that was written. Congratulations, sound like everyone had fun. I hesitated. I hesitated because I never allow my AI to draft and send directly. I always read. Amar, I went to the post. It'll blow your mind. He actually, it was his brother's 10th death anniversary from cancer.
Right.
He had done a run and a charity in his brother's memory. He was
Yeah.
proud of the fact that they were cherishing his memory and he had raised funding for it. But you cannot say, looks like everyone had a great time.
Everyone had a
Kaboom.
great time.
To me, that
Absolutely.
hour was the moment of truth. So, sir,
Yeah.
selling has not become easy. The illusion of ease
It
is there. And I think that's what I
illusion
want
of
to
ease
bring.
is yes. So Pavilion guys publish this, benchmark study every year, and I've been kind of keeping an eye on that. The data is telling you exactly that. I mean, if you're a data-driven person or you're not, I mean, either way. So all the numbers, win rates, I think was went down by 20 plus percent in 24, and then another 20 plus percent in 25. Okay,
Wow.
so okay, there's another one, that again, the time taken to close a deal, I think, went up by 20 to 18, 20% or something. So I think they do this study with a BITSA or something, EBSTA, something like that. So they do this study, right? So the data is showing you very clearly that the win rates are heading down, 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 down. Quota attainment by reps, again, fewer reps are hitting quota, but what's happening is those who hitting quota are actually pulling away, from everyone else, right? So there's a stark difference emerging now. But let me tell you something interesting. The point I was getting to, selling proven by data is the hardest it's been in the last many years. But one thing that is harder than selling today, that's buying. Try being a buyer, try being an enterprise buyer today.
Yeah.
It is the most confusing thing, right? When we talk about, you know, purchases that require consideration because you can't afford to go wrong. So there's this book I really, appreciate called Jolt Effect. If you read it, one of the authors is the guy who did the Challenger study earlier. So they talk about how indecisive people have become because it is fear of messing up. They say, not FOMO, right? Not FOMO, right? Fear of missing out, but fear of messing up, FOMO. In big company purchases, you make a wrong decision, it could be your career on the line. Hey, Amarpreet was the idiot who bought Humantic AI, right?
Um,
And in this
Amar,
fast moving AI, yeah,
yeah,
go,
no,
go
no.
ahead.
I have to add to this. Here's you bring a very interesting angle to this. Here's what I'm seeing with buyers, and tell me if I'm missing this or not. Buyers are also trying to be ultra smart. Sorry, buyers, I have to say that. The same AI that you and I use to become sharper at selling is the same
Absolutely,
AI they're also using to
absolutely,
kind of. And here's what's happening, in my opinion. They're getting far too much information. They're able to create these matrices which tell them which product is good, bad, or ugly. And in their hearts, they kind of know that they may be jumping to conclusions because AI is
right,
great at giving you quantity over quality. That
right,
judgment also is becoming erroneous, in my opinion, right? They're trying to read the room and they get the room wrong also many times, right? When I was watching these buyers, they do come to the table, I would say about 30 to 40% sharper than they used to be. But the conversation within half an hour goes back to the same basic tenets that we always have had. So I'm very
right.
curious also. I see AI on our side, but I see AI on that side. And I am not convinced yet that buyers have understood how to use AI in the context. And they've become reticent. And I also think in the US largely, the last 6, 7 months, Amar, I've seen a massive backwards moment. Too much going on. And when you are looking at different products, it's like, Amar, you're trying to solve this problem, someone's solving that problem, and now you've got all this information, and then on top of this layer of AI, which you think is making you smart, it's actually
Yeah,
confusing you. I would call AI the confounding variable in this entire thing.
right.
But Amar, back to you. I would kind of I
Yeah,
agree and I go with the flow with you on this. Buyers are also skeptical, scared, and the repercussions are harsh, right? I mean, every
yeah.
day they see their colleagues being tossed overboard. You really want to make a mistake in this climate? Maybe not. Back to you, sir.
See, things are changing so fast, and we can probably both of you and I think have been around for some time, right, on this planet. You go to a supermarket and try buying, like, I don't know, a shampoo, a soap, or something. There's 5,000 options staring at you, and what happens?
So why would you choose
So,
shampoo looking at me right now? I mean, that's just wrong, no?
sorry, it was not intended to be a shot, but
Beard wash.
so
Let's say there's 50 types of beard wash. ठीक है, चलेगा.
beard
I'll
wash,
take that.
yeah.
I'll take that.
So
Go ahead, Amar.
the point is, same is happening in B2B buying, because what they can do with, when we started 4 years ago, what you could do with us, you could do with Crystal and a couple of other products. Today, you can do that with Claude, you can do that with Zoom Info, you can do that with Agent
Crazy.
Force. So, absolutely, the way we are overwhelmed by consumers, every morning you wake up and, there's a new model, there's new capability, you can do this, you can do that. That thing is getting multiplied by three for the enterprise buyer. So my point where I was going was that buying is extremely hard while we have more information, more options, more data
Ever.
than ever. But it is, and data bears that out. This Jolt's effect book I told you about, because they were trying to study indecision. So this is 22 before the whole AI
Before
onslaught.
the whole, yeah, onslaught. Yeah.
And what they said was that 87% of the buyers were indecisive. The win rate with those 87% was 6%, 6. And the other 13% who were decisive, will come back to the behavior and personality and why that
Why
plays
that?
such a stellar role. The win rate with those 13% was 57%. So, and I think that's only become probably 87, 13's becoming 97,
Maybe,
3
yeah.
today. Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
sure the life cycle has extended at the same time. So you get the double whammy. So, Amar, I'm
Absolutely.
going to get into something because I've been reading a bit of the work that you do, right? And you write and you also talk a lot. No, wait, that didn't come out right. You know what I mean by talk a lot? You share a lot.
Yes, yeah,
Amar,
that's
I
right.
have a question for you. In one of your writings, you made an argument, right, that companies need to become context first rather than AI
Right,
first.
right.
I'm a sales leader and I'm listening to you and I'm a bit confused. Shed some light on this, dichotomy. What are you trying to say there?
Yeah. So when I'm saying AI, first versus context first, um, see, the point really is what fundamentally, right? Once I start breaking something down into, specific levels, what is it that fundamentally moves the needle, right? What is it?
What is it?
AI is a mechanism, right? AI is a mechanism. It's a kind of a technology. I mean, that's all that AI really is. It's a kind of a technology. It's a pretty cool, sharp, intelligent technology. What does AI, and especially, from a sales perspective, it delivers to me? I mean, I can call it insight, I can call it intelligence, I can call it,
Correct. You can label it anything you want. Yeah,
yes.
I'm with you.
So context is the slightly, I would say, it'll sound weird, but contextual term in the context in which I was
I
speaking.
know it. I
So
can relate to
when
that
I,
though, because
yeah,
English
yeah,
is such a funny language, right? But I can relate to that.
yeah,
So,
yes.
yeah, I mean, can you give me the context of the subcontext of the emotional context of this conversation? I actually heard that statement and I was like, huh?
It can
And
happen.
guess what? ChatGPT understood what shit I was talking and it worked it out. Yes, keep going, sir.
So, so from a how do we leverage, right, AI perspective, and especially I was focusing on some of the build initiatives. A lot of companies are trying to build. I can do this with Claude. So the point there is, you are as good as the insight you get. When we talk about AI, the right word for that is context. Context is essentially the knowledge, the insight, the intelligence. That's what I'm trying to bring to the table. That is what I'm trying to deliver to, right, salespeople. Whether we take a personality insight, whether we take a like account research that we try to do, we are trying to give them, a deeper insight, a more meaningful context. And my point there was that that is your differentiation at that point of time. And context is a function of, one, your model, second, your data. So
Yeah.
if you
Okay.
are just limiting yourself to same model, similar data, people say, oh, I have got unique data. Well, your data is unique for you, does not mean it is
Yep.
differentiated and more valuable than your competitors. They've got same uniqueness, right? You both got an equally pretty child.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that this is better than the other. That was where I was coming from.
So here's my dilemma, Amar, right? Is that I deal with sales people, sales leaders, and they kind of will nod their head when you talk to them. They will.
Right.
Then they exit the room and they're back to the same stuff again. They're still focused on how do I get my emails out? How do I do my and I've so I take them back to like 10, 15, 20 years ago. Remember, we went through an automation phase, right? Everything was automated. And with AI, I sometimes feel that guys have got the feeling that AI is a form of automation. I don't think it is a form of automation. I think it's a higher order of intelligence as well.
It
I
is.
like the
Yes.
point you made there. For me, context is as follows. You, Mr. Salesperson, are AI infused. I respect that. Along the way, you believe yourself as the human in the loop or the salesperson in the loop. I don't think that's true. You remain in the center. The AI is the loop. And I think that, to
Yes.
me, the point I think you're making is the context is that moment of judgment. You're sitting in a room, you know your customer, you know the nuances of your customer. In that room, every script will go wrong. And here's the funny thing, Amar, you'll smile at this. My nephew, my sister's son, he studied his master's in, of all things, fine arts, right, which is in acting. And the Indian sentiment around acting, huh? You're going to die hungry, or you're going to be poor for the rest of your life. Thank God your dad left some money, so therefore you will survive, that type of stuff. This guy was listening to me once and he said to me, it's really funny you salespeople use scripts. And I says, yeah. He says, a script is such a lousy thing to use. I said, "Oh, like, tell me more." And this was his explanation, which made me laugh. And he said to me,
Mm.
Uncle, when I'm on stage, we have a little X on the floor. It marks my spot. The other guy actually knows what I'm going to say. I also know what he's going to say. So when I make a mess with my line, he steps in and says, so I believe you wanted to talk to me about Wednesday. What happened on Wednesday? Because he forgot to say something like this guy. So he says, that's a script where both parties know what's going to happen and is there to protect the integrity of the show. And now here comes your salesperson who thinks he has a script. He sits down and he actually then said to me, now what happens when instead of leaning forward, your customer leans back? And I said to him, boy, how old are you again? Because it was a moment of truth, right? And I think that's the
Yeah.
point with this context. Context first, I think, actually allows you to retain that edge that we have as humans. That
Yes.
context, knowing that context mapping, and then to know what to do at that point, right? I'm
Right.
very sure one day I'm going to be proven wrong when I have a little camera on my shoulder that says, oh, he's leaning in, he doesn't like your price. Oh, I'm sure it's coming. Little birdie constantly talking to me. But Amar, I want to move on from this one because I'm going to challenge you on another thing here. Here's the fun part. Amar, 25 years ago, I built my reputation with CRM. Yeah, awesome, right? I did a lot of research and I came to the general conclusion that CRM delivers more value for the man at the top than for the man at the bottom. Number one.
Mhm.
Number two, billions of dollars spent in CRM. And here's what I see in rooms even today. The final forecast is still on a piece of paper, which translates what came out from the system. The final 20% is still a little bit of polish here, a little bit of polish there. You have this
Right.
language which has been developed, sales stage one, sales stage two, sales stage three, which is all so internally focused that it actually doesn't even reflect what the customer talks about. So that's my danger with CRM. Now, on top of that, we have AI coming through. I want to understand from you, Do you believe that CRM data existing in systems actually delivers that competitive advantage? I'm still missing it, but I'm just curious. Maybe you have a better feel for it. Maybe you're more pro CRM. Does CRM deliver competitive advantage, or is it just table stakes? Something else is needed now.
Table stakes. CRM data is table stakes. So CRM, what is CRM data? See, you just look at the nature of data. What is CRM data really capturing? It is pretty much capturing what's been happening, right? So I'm not saying that is not valuable, right? But it is table stakes because it's the equivalent of, see, it could live in a person's head, but the point is more people need to know and needs to be shared, like you said, especially the, man up is more keen to make sure that they know and
That-
ensure that things happen the way that they should have really happened. So it is valuable without a doubt. Extreme. I mean, you cannot be without CRM data, right? Or because you need. That's the only way you know what's been happening so far. But it is table
Right.
stakes. It is. It doesn't deliver you an advantage, an edge. No.
So let's talk about advantage and an edge then. I want to pivot to Humantic AI, right?
Yeah.
You proudly state that it's built around understanding buyers and it's about buyer intelligence. I use the product on a daily basis. I
Right.
get genuinely excited when my experience of what you predicted is matched with my experience of the person when I finally meet them, right? So the question
Right.
to you is, where has personality intelligence been all along? Why suddenly this craze about personality intelligence when we kind of known this stuff, right? And why do I still get the feeling that a lot of people are not buying into this and underestimate its power? What would your position be on that, boss?
I think I'll try to keep this short. It's a question on which I can just take off, right? Just keep
Please
going till
take
the end.
off. I am absolutely delighted. Remember, I have the ability to cut
Okay.
this into two portions and say
Right.
part one, and then part
Yeah.
two is only deliverable if you pay me $50. That will be perfect for
Right.
me, right? Amarpreet, that works for
Right.
my business model. Take your time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whichever direction you want to go and take us.
Sure. So Deepak, imagine like today, someone comes to you, and says, "Hey, Deepak, I've got a solution to all the traffic problems. I mean, you probably don't have it as bad as Bangalore, but still, traffic's bad everywhere." And said, "Hey, here's a, flying suit. You just put it on, and you can fly to
Yeah.
wherever you want to go." It's going to be pretty hard for you to actually, you might say, "Oh, that's very cool. Is it really possible? I've been hearing it about it, for a few years." But odds of you saying, "Here's the money, I'm going to take it," next to zero at this point of time, right? Next to zero. So personality, see, could you scientifically predict someone's personality? Wasn't even a possibility 15 years ago. Like it was not a possibility 15 years ago. There'd been some research starting around 1993. There was actually a UT Austin professor. His name was James Penn Baker. He did some research around linguistic patterns indicating personality, but
Yeah.
was it a real possibility? Then around 2011, 12, and actually all of us are somewhat familiar with that context, there was a couple of researchers at Cambridge Psychometric Center who did the research around predicting personality from social data. How are we all aware of that? 2016, Cambridge Analytica, Donald Trump, all of that. Those
Oh.
no, those guys. By the way, one of them is on our science advisory board. His name is
Yeah.
Mikhail Kosinski. He's a
Yeah.
Stanford professor. Okay, and
Yeah.
he so digression, but he came on board right and as an advisor because he said, "Hey, I see you guys putting this to finally to good use." He had moved out, before that whole thing happened.
Got it. Got it.
So he was at Stanford by that time, I think around 2012 or 13. My point is, something that wasn't possible, people obviously don't know. What you don't know, it's very hard to, trust. So right now, it is at a place where smart, intelligent, aware people like you, for example, right, say, "Oh, this," because it's still a leading edge technology, right? It is still
Therefore,
is. But for 80%, they don't, what you don't even know is possible. Like 8 out of 10 people I meet, they're like, "Can you actually do that?" Right? So if you don't even know something's possible like flying suits, you are unlikely to trust that. And combined with the fact that, for a lot of people who are somewhat logically minded, for them personality, etc., are very esoteric concepts, right? Like,
correct.
y- you
I
know
agree.
like this is like astrology. I've heard that, by the way, right? Is this like astrology? I'm like, If it's like astrology, then why does McKinsey and Ray Dalio and US Department of Defense, I mean, all the smartest people on the world don't use
Don't
astrology?
use this.
Why do they use, yes, why do they use personality, right? I mean, Ray Dalio's written a book, around this. So there we are.
So I have a question for you. So we believe in personality intelligence. We also believe in suits, because my next question would be, I'm okay with the suit. Does it cater to my weight class? And I think that's where you might falter a bit and say, we might need a longer runway for you, Deepak, but that's fine. We'll discuss that one day, Amar. Amar, when we talk about, personality intelligence, right?
Right.
To me, personality intelligence reeks of some artificial notion being pumped into me, right? And I'm confused, because on one hand we do talk about context, right? So there's this dilemma I'm facing in my brain. I have this artificial personality intelligence, and I'm using the word artificial because it's coming in from
Sure.
something. Is it truly artificial? Is it based on some data record of the person? I don't know. Did you fill an assessment? I don't know. Typically, if you self-score, I can at least buy that this is what you feel about yourself. So I don't know. But I'm just
Right.
curious. You are distinguishing between personalization and genuine insight, right? But what are salespeople going to most likely get wrong on this aspect? Do they even understand personality intelligence? Is there an education process to bring them up to speed with this type of thought process?
Most people don't. See, what we have seen, and this is a practical point I'm making,
Yeah,
those who have been disc trained, vast majority believe in it, because
right.
once you get trained, you open up your eyes into an entirely new dimension, and like, I can understand the world and people through this lens, right? So 8 out of 10 tend to be believers, and sometimes heavy big believers. Those who are not trained, they are largely, I mean, I don't blame them, but they are
Yeah.
unaware, right? They don't know, and what you don't know, you don't trust generally.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There's always a dilemma. Or you've been trained in a certain way. As my ex-boss used to tell me, if I am going to train you like a hammer, then all you're going to see is nails. So I think most of us
Absolutely.
have been,
Yeah.
most of us have been, and
Yes.
if you look at salespeople in general, right, they've been taught the
Yeah.
basic stuff. You have the disc.
Yeah.
We don't explain the genesis or the thought process behind the disc. We kind of give them a
Right.
scorecard that says, when someone
Yeah.
has these type of attributes, boom. When someone has these type of attributes, boom. My caution to everyone listening in is always has been that, you know what, it's nice to have a DISC. There's four quadrants to the world. The reality is that you're going to meet people that most likely straddle across. You will
Yes.
be actually
True.
surprised.
Everyone
Some
does.
people are pretty
Yeah.
good at, how do you say this, that contextual. At the moment they change and they become a D, and then they go back
Right.
down. Amar,
Right.
here's something I wanted to check with you though. So I have a general fear that there is, you use a lot of LinkedIn, a lot of social information out there. And I have a question for you. One of the biggest things that I pick up is this feedback to me that, wait, hold on. You saw my LinkedIn profile and you think you know everything about me. I paid someone
Right.
$250 to build that LinkedIn profile for me.
Right.
In a scenario like that, Amar, how deep are you digging in to make sure that this surface level reaction is, discarded, and you can actually see that personality behind that information? How do you handle that?
Yeah. So, Deepak, we have done studies, right? We, of course, have tons and tons of anecdotal data from our customers. So,
Yeah,
but what our studies specifically point to, that our current accuracy, and it's been getting better over time. We do a calibration exercise every year, is
yeah,
around 87%, right? So it's around 87%. We are wrong 13 times out of 100, and
yeah.
it does depend on the data that is out there. Uh, are these points invalid? Then I spent $250. No, those are valid. Those are valid points. See, Google SEO, we've heard these things. All the SEO guys in the world and Google have been fighting a battle, or at least fought a battle for the last 25,
Yes,
30 years, right? So
correct.
you try to game them, Google does. See, it's so even today there is a fight going on between the algorithm and the human. So humans will do what humans will do. Algorithm's job is to stay ahead of the curve. So far, I would say largely algorithm, has been better placed, has been winning. It's just the nature of the beast. So we do multiple things to handle such scenarios. Like, the world's changing. Obviously, there's a lot more AI generated content. Content
Mhm.
plays a much smaller role, an increasingly smaller role for our algorithm. For example, right? So
Because
it's
of
a
the
it's a
nature of the ease
yes,
of which it's being generated also. Yeah, you got to
right,
discount it.
right.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So if the wars today are being fought, right? I mean, with drones and UAVs, you don't send people to fight those battles anymore, right? It's It's just you
But I
solve the
like my
problems in front of
muskets and
you.
bayonets, Amar. I like the you shoot one and you get like 20 pellets missing every but hurting a lot of people. No, no. Amar, I'm gonna dig into this a little bit more if you don't mind, right? There's
Please.
something that I want to understand. In one
Yeah.
of your articles, you use this very interesting phrase, consumption expansion, right?
Right.
And I am at odds with you because for somewhere deep inside me, I do believe that AI is going to knock the socks off a lot of people and they will
Right.
not recover. You, on the other
Okay.
hand, are challenging this narrative that AI will destroy jobs. What are we misunderstanding here? Give me your take and perspective on this.
No, so let's be clear. I am saying AI will not destroy jobs.
And I am saying I think it
It
will.
will. Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. 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 No, great. I love this because it's almost one of my favorite topics. If you, in fact, if you ask me, I would put this consumption expansion thing as one of my most, fundamental or valuable, point of views, insights, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me see if I can. I don't think I'll be able to convince you, but at least I can leave you right with some more possibilities. So, see, and Silicon Valley, I think, gets it extremely wrong. Even some of the top technologists in the world get it extremely wrong. See, to understand future, I believe we have to start by looking at the past, right? History has tons and tons of lessons. So let me use that analogy here, Deepak. See, why would AI in the first place even take away jobs? Like, why? Let me just ask you for once. Why do you think AI will take away jobs?
Here's how I look at it, Amar, right? And I'll admit my lens is
Yeah.
looking only at the next 1 to 2 years. I'm being myopic for
Okay.
1 second. Just bear with me, right? So here comes, I mean, I've been around the block a few times, correct? When we
Right.
got Excel, when we got the calculator, when we got all these tools, when I got predictive analytics, statistical packages, SPSS, SS, they required a lot of integration. They required a lot of very technical expertise to do them. Now comes this
Right.
great thing, which is complete differentiation. At the same
Yeah.
time, the cost of running it, I don't know the actual cost, must be higher, right? And we are paying
Yeah.
subsidized. The difference that I noticed is that I spent my entire career automating the life out of people, right? And I never automated the life out of the senior execs. This is the
Right.
first time I'm seeing a tool that's actually saying to me, hey, Deepak, a cake was never supposed to be cut horizontally. Let me
Yeah.
show you how to get rid of this organizational structure here. So I'll be very cautious how I say this. I'm excited about the fact
Right.
that now the cleaver is going to cut from the top all the way to the bottom. Because there was a
Right.
certain segment that used to hide behind slides and argue that I
Yeah.
own the slides. I therefore can wax lyrical on the slide. So therefore my survival. That same slide can now be pontificated on in 8 minutes by an AI. What took you 8 hours, AI can run it in 8 minutes, right?
Right.
Here's my doubt and my suspicion. We have this avalanche of people being thrown off by those companies who are making the most money that they've ever made, right?
Right.
So perhaps my angst is about the fact that we are dropping people because the beat gave them a contract, and this is me, the socialist, talking for 1 second, right?
Yeah.
We had a contract. The contract said that if I do well, you do well. Along the way, it became that I must do well. The rest is all fodder. So I have this 30,000 people, kicked off at 6 o'clock in the morning, and suddenly the count is everyone got kicked off, not just the American high-paid guys, but also the Indian guys. Here's
Right.
my dilemma: you have this shake-up. Now people tell me tons of people are going to get employed in AI, Deepak. Here's what I've been watching the last 10 years, Amar. Every single person that I have interviewed for AI or I've seen companies hire has had advanced degrees, mathematical, analytical capabilities that's not available to a lot of the people there today. So, am
Right.
I, at the same time, I'm very optimistic about the future, Amar. I think both of you and I will agree on that. We're both optimistic.
Sure.
I think my
Yeah.
frustration is how do we now temper the next 2 to 5 years where you'll have this absolute collapse and not and lack of readiness on the part of us to absorb. Someone told me
Right.
250 million people are going to lose their jobs in the next 1 year, Deepak, to AI. How many will be hired back? About 80 to 90 million. My question was, what what happened to the 110 million people? And they're not just people, they're actually breadwinners, which means multiply by four, that's like half a billion people that will be impacted in the next 2 years. That's where
Right.
I'm coming from. That's where I'm coming from. Back to you.
So when was the last, like I said, let's look at the past. When was the last time you saw something like this happening?
Never.
When was the last time?
Never.
Okay.
Not at this. Nope, never.
It's never happened.
Mhm.
So What do you think, happened during industrial revolution? I mean, we're not even going back, a long time ago, just a few hundred
Absolutely
to 300 years ago, right? Machines came in and started doing things that used to be done by people. What do you
agreed.
think, right?
No, I think I'm actually latching on to your point. I think the
Yeah,
reality of the situation is human beings tend to look for patterns in everything, correct?
yeah,
My concern is that this pattern this time is about classic sales interruption, right? The pattern interrupter. That's
right,
how I'm looking at it. Now, the industrial revolution came, and you're correct. I also look at the bubonic plague also as a great leveler, right? Millions died.
right,
Think of them as
right,
having. So for me, I absolutely agree with you. There
yeah,
is cycles. Those cycles will
yeah,
reveal. I think the dilemma for me is you are correct, and I will buy stock in you for just for saying that. I do believe the future is rosy. Amar, I'm only
yeah.
worried about the next 2 3 years, and I think maybe that's where my angst is coming from.
Sure. So again, see, first of all, two, three fundamental points. One is no one knows. I am not claiming to know either,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And anyone who says, I know this is how it will happen, to me, we only, AI is a probabilistic technology. We can only talk in terms of probabilities. Anyone who says this is how it will happen, I don't care you're Elon Musk or you are a Nobel laureate, you don't know what you're talking about, or you're
Mm,
trying to just, fool people. So we can
correct.
only talk, I'm talking probabilities here, right? I'm talking probabilities. Now, talking probabilities, there's always a chance that something might happen which is materially different, right? The whole black swan concept from what's always happened in the past. I mean, it's always a possibility. There could be an asteroid that hits us today. There's the small probability, right?
There's
So
absolutely
so
aligned.
it can happen that the world just falls by the wayside over next 2 3 years and then takes some time. It's possible. Let me call it out. But what's the likely scenario is, Deepak, what we're talking about. That's when we go and look at patterns. What has happened? So something slightly funny on Twitter, if you are on Twitter, right, look for an account called Pessimists Archive. Okay, I love that account, Pessimists Archive. So they pick up these nuggets, bits and
Oh,
pieces,
yeah, yeah.
from last 100, 200, sometimes even going back, right? Whatever is
Oh,
recorded. If you read about what people said when printing press came, okay, if you read what people said when bicycle came, when electricity came, when cars came, see, and I don't blame people. It is one of my professors used to call it liability of newness. New things,
new
this
things will.
scare us, right? They scare us. See what is happening with AI. It is an abstraction, right, at one level. So I mean, we are able to do in with natural language things that used to take specific kinds
Very
of
specific kinds of
language earlier,
manipulation.
right?
Yeah.
We are able to do things in seconds what used to take hours, but that also has happened earlier, right? That has happened earlier, earlier as well. It's not the first time any of this is happening. And the world, see, we are, someone shared a graphic today. I wish I could share it with you
Hmm.
about the impact of AI. It's like a lot of dots, and it just shows that out of thousands of
The
dots, it's a,
density of where I relate to that one because I think the total was like 3 or 4% of humanity is even
it's
touching AI. What's left
even
with
touch
so much?
even touching AI. So see, that's where even consumption expansion. If you saw my article,
Mm.
do you know that fax usage is growing at 25% per year
I
today? Right?
I
Fax.
was
Okay. Okay.
and the
I mean,
reason why I agree with you is because my son is in India for treatment right now. Am I right? And I went to
right.
his and I said to she said to me, give me a fax number to send it to the doctor. And I said to her, fax number. Who uses fax number? She said everyone. And then she gave me this website name and says you can quickly set up an account and we just send it there and the doctor can download and then it's a once-off transaction. And I was like,
Yeah.
what did I miss? So I see your point. It's
So
become
yeah, the real world moves very slowly. See, the big wide world moves very slowly. You, me, we are at the forefront of technology. We are lucky. So that's why the odds of things settling down, and by the time this happens, people have largely come to terms. Having said that, we've had had we've had bigger disruptions, right, in the
yes.
past, whether caused by technology, economics. I mean, the Great Depression and bubonic
Even
plague and
COVID,
whatnot.
right? Amar, COVID for
COVID,
me was a
COVID,
massive
absolutely,
inflection point. Yeah,
yes.
absolutely made us
So
think
there,
twice.
Yeah. So there is a possibility. I'm not ruling it out. And by the way, I took around 1 year and I did take around 1 year to make my mind up where I stood, even about the larger AGI stuff and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have a very interesting analogy, by the way. If we ever talk about AGI, that I used to share that story. But the point is, odds are, you know, high odds are we will be fine. There will be some disruption for sure. There will be some disruption. People will get affected. But see, we humans, we are a very resilient, species.
Amar,
We always
I
find a way
have
out.
to, I'm going to push you on this one. Let me tell you a true story and you tell me your reaction to it. I have a startup called Rise Up at Work. I'm building a career
Yeah,
progression platform, and
yeah,
I am having a pitch to an individual who himself told me on the call his net worth is $300 million. And I'm saying this because there's a reason for saying that, right?
right.
So when someone mentions that at the very start of the conversation, they're sending you a signal. They've sent a signal to you, right? Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yes,
heard the signal. So now Amar, I start my conversation, and this is his judgment after 18 minutes. He says, "Oh, so no product, right?" I says, oh, "Sorry, what does that mean?" He says, "Do you do fizzy drinks?" I said, "No, I don't do fizzy drinks." He's like, "Oh, okay." I said, "I'm sorry, you took my call. I'm confused. This is to explain everything." He says, "No, no, I got it." He just said, "Deepak, let me be honest with you. Let me tell you why this will not work." And I said, "Please do tell," because Amar, we lean forward, right? As founders, when someone tells you why it won't work, you actually, you're not. It's not a criticism. I really want to understand that point of
right.
view because I need to build my
Yeah,
boat, my defensibility. And he said to me, 2 years when AJ arrives, all of you guys with these ideas on all this AI nonsense and everything will be wiped out because I won't need you. I will go to Claude. Claude will do everything for me. I said to him, okay. I said, so clearly this is not an investment opportunity for you. He said, no. I said, can I ask you, have you disinvested from all of the other companies yet? He just had this look on his face. I said, well, if you feel that aggressive about it, you should disinvest from nearly more than what, 50, 60, I would say 100% all SaaS companies then, right? I'm going to just get out of all of them. So he looked
right.
at me and said to me, oh, so okay, I think I know what they mean in America when they say smart ass. I said, no, that was not. That was not. I'm simply asking you. You're telling me
Yeah,
that my model at risk. But Amar, I have a question for you because
yeah,
there's something out there that tells me that people are actually, at least this guy who is a serious investor because he has made
right.
investments. I can see it's public name. I won't publish it to you. But
Sure, sure.
question for you, Amar, is that if I were to position and say to you as follows, Amar, if that is true, then we are going to get to a point where there's going to be a sentient being that can actually scan the universe, scan everything, and actually tell a seller directly what his buyer's
Right.
thing is. Why do I need you then? What is your
Yeah,
moat or defensibility against some anomaly like that? And I have to ask because I got personally hit by this. And I'm very
right,
curious, how do other founders respond to the world who argues about this? Because you did start your
right.
conversation by saying ChatGPT, Claude, and these can do some of the big work that we do. So now the question is, why
Right.
can't they do all of the work you do in 2 years from
Yeah,
now? What would your
yeah,
position be?
yeah. So, I mean, you visibly read quite a bit of what I have written. Have you read my AGI post? I did write about AGI a few months ago. It was a
Yes,
few
sir.
months ago.
If I
Okay.
start reading everything you post, then I'm working for you, Amar. I'm going to send you a bill now.
No, so no specific, specifically coming to AGI, right? So, okay, I think this allows me to plug in, right? Well, see, I'm not a very witty person, so whenever I come up with something witty, humorous, I really take
It's
pride in that.
priceless. I got it. I'm waiting, sir. Go
Okay,
ahead. I'm getting a
so
gem on this call, on this show. Then
yeah, yeah. So the AGI story, I tell people, I turn it into like an Indian village story. So I said, look, there was an Indian village. Okay. So someone came up and said, hey, this was a long time ago. Like you didn't really have a lot of science and stuff. So people said, hey, that moon, right? I mean, how far is that moon, right? How far is that moon? Uh, we're gonna send something out there, throw something that actually reaches the moon. So people like, okay, ठीक है, let's, how do we do that? So bunch of teams, got working on it. Okay, we're going to, this is a challenge we're going to. So someone built, right, this kind of a huge catapult, and they threw this, big stone, right, up in the air that went up like, maybe 500 meters. People are like, yeah, nah, this is good, but nothing, right? Then someone else did, went a kilometer. Then someone built, this whatever thing
propulsion
that sent
device.
this stone up, yes, like maybe 10 kilometers, let's just say, right? They had no idea how far the moon really is. People are like, did it really reach the moon? And then like, nah, it didn't really reach the moon. And then someone actually built this machine, the book. That thing went up, how far? 1,000 kilometers into the, and people are like, this is it, we've done it.
Nearly there, nearly there. Yeah.
Right? They're like, no, this is almost hit the moon. I mean, you know how far the moon is? It's more than
It's
300,000
huge.
kilometers far.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
I think that's where we are with AGI, right? That's where we with AGI. See, this is the kind of progress we've never seen. And all of us get wedded to, right? See, we all, I mean, your neighbor has the same issue. You're like, yeah, big deal. And same thing happens to you, like, shit, this is the worst thing that's
Shifts is
ever.
the worst thing that ever happened.
So,
Absolutely correct.
right. So we all, because we've never seen anything like this. And the fact is, there has probably not been anything like this, relatively speaking. But if you go back, some of the changes, can you imagine the change that happened when humans found fire or agriculture, right? I mean, instead of hunting, or I mean, I can go on and on. Like I said, look at the history.
Yeah,
So those changes we take for granted, the way our kids take internet for granted. Internet, I mean, you and I have seen world without internet, right? And
yeah. I
so
mean, do you remember, Amar, that
yeah.
favorite sound was when your modem used to go.
Yeah,
Brilliant
it
sound,
used
right?
to.
You and I grew up on that
Yeah,
sound.
I still remember. I mean,
Yeah,
yes, we can hear that sound even today. So that, back to your question again, see the odds of AGI being, and I actually even take a philosophical view in that article. If you want to write a spiritual view, if you will, I mean, as a counter view, right, to look at it from other perspective. I think the odds of AGI coming by in 2 years or even 5, 10 years are abysmally low as per me. So that's the reason I am not really bothered. Anyone who tells me that, I'll be like, good luck to you. Do what you must, go to your
got
bunker
it,
in New
got
Zealand
it.
if you will. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So look, that's a fair answer. Here's how I try to dispel this with him. It didn't work though, but I'll tell you my argument. Remember, I said
Yeah.
to him as follows that I really like the fact that you're very sure it's happening in 2 years. I would then ask you this question: given your net worth, which companies are you then investing in?
Right.
That's when he reminded me, fizzy drinks. And I'm like, okay. I
Is
just
that
smile.
basically?
I just smile. Now I understand his context of where he wants. He wants to go into hard products. But anyway, so Amar, what I was curious about, right? This conversation has been interesting, right? On one hand, we see the power of AI. On the other hand, we also know. And to be honest with you, it's about humanity and perseverance and, balance of probability. I like that, right? There's always a chance they work. I do a lot of things. The moon is far away, and now I'm just arguing, but I get that. That's why it's called moonshot, right? That's why you name a
Right.
project so extreme that it's just.
Right.
The question for you, sir, is that we spoke about job loss. We got emotional about it. You try to calm me down. Grateful for that. Salespeople listening in. What's the single biggest threat from AI for them that they need to manage and think about as they move forward? What would your guidance be at this stage for them?
See, AI is beginning to already do a lot of things that salespeople have been doing. So I would say two things. See, one is I do believe that, see, technology is nothing but leverage. Okay,
Yeah,
and
correct.
it is not exactly the easiest kind of leverage. So some people will use this leverage better than others. So I do think that technology is going to keep separating, the men from the boys and the also rans.
I
You
I
get my
I
point.
I, I align 100% with you. And the way I'm
Right,
explaining it to salespeople as follows. In the time that it took for you to complain to me or to ask my opinion, if you just sit back and ask yourself, if you're in the top 25%, what differentiates you? And they usually tell me,
right,
I am, this, I'm at every meeting, I'm 5 minutes early. Believe it or not, that's one of the top
right,
three reasons. I kid you
right.
not, of why people are
Okay.
successful in sales. If a customer says this, I ask him this, I deliver this, I'm great at discovery. There's always some rationale to it, right?
Right.
So I'm telling him, so you've done that analysis, Now the question is, when you look at AI, when you look at people using AI, what do you need to do? Think of AI as another technique or a tool that you need to harness and use to your benefit.
Yes.
How are you going to do it? They
Absolutely.
don't have a strategy. What they do have is what I call shadow IT, where the company gives them something, they also go on the site and bring in stuff. And all you're doing is fear of missing out, multiple sets of information, data, you're getting all over the place.
Right.
The analogy I use, Amar, and this is a funny one, is I say there are
Yeah.
10 salespeople and they have been told, run. The guy that gets to the end of the field will win. And there's one guy who just sits down and starts putting on his sports shoes, gets
Right.
up, half the field has run already halfway, and everyone's shouting at him, you fool, and then he starts running. He will overtake them, right? Because he's got the right shoes. I said, that's
Yeah.
AI to me. AI is something that you need to bring into your arsenal in the same way that you prepare for an Olympic sport by working on your mind, but you got to make
Yeah.
sure that you have the right clothes and the right nutrition and the right shoes. We're at a point where you need to decide how you're going to adapt to this. And of course, I have my own belief about the cognitive dissonance or the cognitive drift that AI causes.
Right.
But at the
Yeah.
same time, those who are using AI the right way are actually using it very smart, Amarpreet, right? These are
Yes.
the guys that know how to context prompt, how to challenge themselves, how to be the devil's advocate. And I have a feeling that people are going to have to become. I like, you remember that book, Argumentative Indian, right? And when I saw
Mm.
the title, I actually thought, okay, we got another stereotype about Indians. I read 10 pages, then I just gave up with Amartya Sen went right over my head. Sorry about that.
Right.
But to me, I need everyone to be an argumentative Indian when you're dealing with AI. You will actually enjoy that experience of being challenged in return. So if I could start wrapping up, because we're clearly going to hit the 1 hour mark at the rate we've been going, and I really appreciate this conversation, Amar, because I think
Right.
we went to spirituality, which you have told me to read upon more. We didn't touch it. We spoke about effort to get to the moon, and I appreciate that. If there is one sales habit every rep should stop immediately, what would that be, Amar?
I think it's easier said than done, but stop looking at things from your perspective. Look at things, from it applies to selling, it applies to relationships, it applies
It
everywhere, right? I
does.
mean,
I
empathy,
would agree
empathy, all
with you.
that good stuff. Yeah. So stop looking at things.
Uh,
You'll actually do yourself a favor, a huge favor. You'll succeed a lot more than you've succeeded earlier.
sir, you mentioned books earlier. Amar, if you were to say that, hey, there's this book that I read which really helped me in selling or made me understand sales, what would that book be?
Yeah. So sales, right? Not in general. So especially with selling.
Sales. It could be still a general book that has a huge
Sure.
impact on selling. Yeah, it could be.
Right.
Could be.
Right. Yeah. I would, I think from a sales perspective, there's a bunch of books that I have really, really liked. But I think I mentioned it earlier, the Jolt Effect book. I think
Jolt
in
Effect book.
recent
Yeah.
Jolt Effect, yes, in recent times, I think extremely useful, extremely handy, extremely practical for the times that we are in.
Amar, if I were to call you back in 3 years to this show, right,
Right.
and ask you what has Humantic done in the last 3 years? What is your roadmap? What's your thought process? How do you want to make a bigger impact to the seller community? What do you have that's like, I don't need you to get into more detail, but just tell me of things that you're trying to work on, things you're trying to solve for. Get us excited a bit so that we can keep an eye on you and your progress.
Yeah. See, the way, you know, uh, I measure my success, our progress in a slightly, see, one is, of course, how much are we growing revenue and all, that's one level. But at a
That's
slightly meta level is uh, we I see us, I believe, see, we are a mission driven company, right? We are here to help sellers become better, much, much better in a way that's good for them and good for their customers. So right now, I would say we have a few thousand people that we have turned into better sellers. I would want that number to be in millions, right? I want millions of
love it.
sellers who have
Love it.
become better
Yes.
sellers with
I love
Humantic AI.
that. Yeah. Uh, and, and here's my own perspective, right? I mean, I would not have called you on the call if I was not using the product and feeling warm about it, right? Because that's a danger. If I don't believe in it, why would I call you? That's to me is criminal. Now, when
Yes,
my experience of humanity, which I just wanted to share with people, is that I'm also one of those guys I'm not the touchy feely type of guy, but I do respect data, right?
right,
And at the same time, my wife says, for someone who respects data, you don't seem to lose weight, even when the machine is screaming one at a time, one at a time. I'm like, okay, I'm working on it, woman, I'm working on it. But Amar, here's what I felt different is that I feel that Humantic has the ability to become part of the arsenal on a regular cadence. In the same way that people say, right? That like it's like cold calling. I need to cold call 20 times a day because you know your
right,
ratios, right? I got that feeling. I'm at a point with your tool that I'm literally, and in fact, you will laugh when I say this. I actually do it the other way also.
right.
I'm actually helping my people that I coach
Yeah,
try to imagine selling to their bosses and what is that boss
right,
going to look like. So I
Yeah.
think LinkedIn is getting very upset with me when I'm using your product to actually reverse engineer. Now, what is the
Right.
reverse engineering? Here's two things happen. One is the guy actually understands that as a seller, if I were to sell to my own boss, what would that look like? Which is,
Right.
but two, it gives him a perspective of how to performance manage upwards.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying your tool is designed for that, but all I'm saying is that once you kind of see the power and the approach
Yeah.
that you guys took, yes, I've benefited from it, my conversations. And another thing that I also noted was that because I'm now alert and I'm also now understanding what you're trying to tell me, I'm also
Right.
listening for evidence to contra what you said to
Right.
me.
Right.
Typically, if you have no baseline, Amar, that you offer in Humantic, as an example, when I go in with no baseline, sometimes I actually struggle. But when you actually go in with a hypothesis that this guy is a dynamic individual that I need to address, but within the first 5 minutes,
Right.
that's not true, you are
Right.
actually better prepared to
To
regress
deliver.
because you
Yes.
actually, and I think this is something people don't understand with the power of this type of stuff, right? They
Yeah.
assume it's predictive to the, it's not predictive, it's a leading indicator, but you need to be smart in how you use it.
You need to be smart
You're
in
not going to
impact.
tell me. I mean, if it's that smart, you're going to tell me what the guy loves potatoes and salad. He loves mushrooms. But that's not what we're about, right? I'm not trying to tell
Right.
you where you should take this guy out for lunch. And someone once told me, but isn't that a cool thing if you could? I'm like, yeah, here's an advice for you. Just ask your customer, where would you like to eat? I like to take you out for lunch. You'll be surprised. He actually might tell you, hey, Amar, you're from India. You know what? I actually like Indian food. Boom. The guy's looking at me and says, stop using technology for everything. But Amar, I would like to wrap up. I think you have a very interesting
Yeah.
product. I use it. I was very intrigued by its usage. I took it and I run a lot of hypotheses against it. Your
Yeah.
87% number, I'm not going to challenge it. My own personal
Yeah.
unacademic approach to it has been I get two-thirds to higher confidence in my approach. The
Right.
remaining one third, I don't owe it to you. I owe it to myself. Because at the end of the
Right.
day, any salesperson that outsources judgment to a tool is asking for a hiding. He is asking for a hiding, and I wish them luck. I think this tool actually gives you something to think about. It also, I would argue, is you're going into battle. It's another piece of armor that you can absolutely put onto yourself. Strap it in. You still need a sword. Maybe that's not what you're offering, Amar. But I, Godspeed. Wish you all the luck. Really enjoyed this conversation. I think we meandered all over, but you know what? Welcome to Sales Uncharted. We go where no human being wants to go anymore. Here be dragons territory. So Amar, thank you very much, boss. I'm going to say goodbye, and I will hopefully have this out in a couple of days.
No, thank you. I really enjoyed the conversation, Deepak. I'm glad we got a chance to, spend this
Absolutely.
this hour. So thank you once again for having me. I really
And
enjoyed
thanks for reminding me it's 1 hour. Yes, you're right. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.
it. All right.